Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Facebook Live. We appreciate you taking the time to learn more about what is happening inside of the School District of Lee County. Today, our focus is going to be on redistricting. The Lee County School Board is currently considering drawing new boundaries for the 5 single-member districts. The goal of redistricting is to readjust the population between board member districts so that no member district includes more individual residents than the others. School board districts 1 through 5 are impacted by these potential changes as those members are elected by the residents of their districts. Districts 6 and 7, they are elected at large by residents of the entire county and therefore would not be impacted. If you have any questions about the redistricting while you watch today, please put them into the comments section and we'll answer what we can at the end of our presentation. So what I want to do to get us started is introduce the Chief of Staff to the Superintendent, Dr. Denise Carlin. She's going to begin and introduce those giving us a sneak peek to a presentation that will be given to the board later today. Dr. Carlin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spicker, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today and with all of our audience. We're very excited to share with you redistricting and how this will impact your vote, basically moving forward. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce who's with us today. So to my right is Kathy Dupree-Bruno. She is our board attorney and our general counsel, and so she will be leading us today through the legal portion of this, this concept. To my left is Kathy Ebaugh, who is our planner for all things planning here in our district, and to her left is Mr. Jared Eady, who is our Director of Diversity and Inclusion. So proud to have the team here with us today. So really, if you follow along on the presentation, what we're going to be doing today is talking with you a little bit about the process that we will go through with redistricting and the process we've already begun going through. Our agenda today is to talk with you a little bit about, first of all, what is redistricting. We'll take a look at the timeline for the decision. We will talk about where our board is in terms of this process at this point and the considerations we're going to be asking them to make as we move forward through redistricting. We're going to talk about a little bit about history. We'll take a walk through history. Our resident historian, Mr. Eady, will take a look back over the last 30 to 40 years in terms of what has happened in this school district relative to redistricting. Again, we'll talk about legal. We'll show you some of the maps that have been drawn. We have had some maps drawn by demographers at the county that our board will be considering in addition to the ability to draw their own map. Then we will wrap up with what the discussion is going to be with the board. We're going to be looking for consensus on which map they will choose to redistrict, any next steps, and then we'll entertain questions that come from the audience. So let's dive right into the presentation. And before we go to the timeline, I want to just clarify. Redistricting is a process that happens every 10 years based on census data. So the census just occurred in 2020. We received the data along with county and other municipalities, and then it's basically making sure that you redraw the districts so that they are equally representing the population that we serve. So that's very important to remember. Sometimes people get that confused. They'll talk about, well, maybe this has to do with where the schools are that the children are attending, or maybe my bus stops, or there's some other reason to redistrict, and really it does not pertain to that. It's really redrawing the lines of districts from which public officials, like our school board members, are elected, and we really try to balance that to the point that we can within a certain percentage. So that's really the idea of redistricting. It's really about who are you electing and how does that affect the general electorate. It really does not have to do with students at this point. So we are going to be coming to our school board today and asking them a couple of questions. One is, the county has drawn 7 maps with their demographers, and they have submitted those for consideration. Those do have to be looked at carefully by their legal departments to make sure that they do meet the letter of the law in terms of what redistricting requires. So we will ask the board today, are you going to go with one of the county maps, or the school board does have the ability to create their own map. And so we will have a demographer here today to listen, and if the board's desire is to create their own redistrict map, we will have that available for them today to make a decision on. So basically, what are the considerations? If we can move forward on our slide. One more, please. Thank you. So we did learn last night at the Board of County Commission meeting that the board did say that they were going to go with County Map 5, which we're going to share with the public momentarily. But we're not held to that. We may use County Map 5 and say, okay, that's the map we want to adopt with our redistricting process at the district. The board may come by and say, we don't want County Map 5, we would like to consider one of the other county-generated maps, and that is a choice. Or like I said before, they may say, we don't want any of those 7 maps, we want our demographer to design our own individual map to equalize our population. So those are the considerations that will happen today at our board meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eady to talk a little bit about our history as a district and what we have done in the past related to redistricting in the district.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Carlin. So to jump off of one of her last points related to our district and how we've taken the path of adopting alternative plans for board member residence areas. In 1991, the School District of Lee County and its board received map alternatives presented by district staff. At that time, the adopted plan did not conform with the boundaries established by the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. However, between the years 2001 and 2011, the School Board of Lee County modified the residence areas for board members to conform with the areas established by the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. In reviewing the history, the year 2014 was an important year. The voters in Lee County increased the number of school board members from 5 to 7, with 5 of the members being elected single member residence areas and 2 of the members being elected at large. So we currently have in place from the 2011 map the single member residence areas conforming with the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. Dr. Carlin?
Yes, sir. Okay, and we're going to turn it over to Mr. Bruno, who's going to talk with us a little bit about the law as it relates to redistricting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carlin, and good afternoon, everybody. So with regards to the law, it's really pretty simple. It's based on our Constitution and what the United States Supreme Court has interpreted, that everyone gets 1 vote per person. Everyone's voice should be heard and should be counted. So what the redistricting process is just to make sure that the districts are an equal population so that they're reflective of what their constituency is. We want to be careful that we're not diluting any particular type of community so that we're in compliance with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and that we're kind of keeping these districts contiguous and compact. In addition, we want to ensure that we're following natural boundaries as much as possible, and we can also look into our existing boundaries that we currently have. It's really important for us to keep in mind our communities of interest and do what we can to preserve those communities. And I think the hardest thing from a legal standpoint when you talk about redistricting is finding that sweet spot between the 14th Amendment, which talks about equal protection, and the Voting Rights Act. So those are the things that we have to look at to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to have what we are constitutionally entitled to, which is 1 vote per person. Dr. Carlin.
Okay, thank you very much. And so now we're going to turn it over to Kathy Ebaugh, who's going to walk us through the maps.
So the county has developed for us a series of maps for consideration. And then we have an additional community map as well as an initial map that was developed by Commissioner Hammond from the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. One thing I want to point out from what Ms. Bruno just said is when we talk about compactness, it doesn't necessarily mean that the area is small. It means that the area is contiguous. So if you think about putting a dot in the middle of the area, that circle that's created is equally distributed as best as possible, and that you don't have areas that are linear or outliers to that area. So it's not necessarily about size as it is about ensuring that the districts are well connected to one another in a very compact way. Think of like a baseball or a basketball. It's not about size, it's about that they're uniformly together. So map 1. When you're reading these maps, when you look at the blue lines are our existing boundaries. And once again, what we're talking about here is not about where your child might go to school or where bus transportation is or where an attendance zone for a school is. These are about legislative boundaries. These are about who is able to elect the official representative from that area. And the blue lines are the current lines that we have established from the previous census in 2010. So you can see If there's pink or blue or orange or yellow or green that goes beyond that blue line, those are the changes from the current map to what would be a proposed map. So this in map 1, again, and our target here is about 152,000 people. So the number underneath the negative in case of example, District 1, negative 47, means that we're 47 off of our target. In District 4, you're 70 over your target. In District 5, you're 877 off of the target, below the target. And then in District 2, it's 398 over the target. And in District 3, it's 450 over the target. And we're trying to keep our target as close as possible. We'd like to be within 2.5% or less of a difference from one district to another, recognizing it may not be possible to get perfect unanimity, but as close as we possibly can within that 2.5% difference. Alternative 2, again, these are, the blue line indicates what our current zone is, and the green, yellow, orange, blue, and pink are the proposed lines. You can see that this one is slightly different than the one before. The one before had very minimal areas that have changed, and this one, District 4, extends a little bit more into District 5 than the previous map did. District 1 extends a little bit more into District 4 than the previous map did. District 3 stays the same, and there's some slight differences in District 2. In District 3, again, this one, District 4, is once again changing quite a bit, moving into District 1. District 1 and this model extends over the river into District 3 and District 2. District 3 moves a little bit more north into the illegal corridor area and Daniels Parkway area. And District 5 pretty much stays the same except for a little bit along the Palm Bay corridor. District 4, like District 1, there's just a few changes at the edges. In District 5, again, a lot of your changes are in between District 4 and District 1. And this is the map that was provided by the NAACP. We don't have the overlay from the previous one. This one was not developed by the county, and that's why there isn't an overlay. But you can see that there's some significant differences in how this one is developed. And when you think about the compactness factor of this one is much different. And this is the Commissioner Hammond map, again, why you don't see the existing overlay on top of it. This one was really designed to try and the best possible way be appreciative of local jurisdictions. That would be the city of Cape Coral, the city of Fort Myers, the town of Fort Myers Beach, the city of the town of Sanibel, and the village of Estero. This map tried to be very appreciative of their local jurisdictional lines. Cape Coral is too big of a community to fit into one legislative boundary district, but you can see that the others were able to achieve that within each of the legislative boundaries.
All right, thank you, Ms. Seba. So really, we're going to wrap up today's presentation with just a recap. So what we are going to our board today to ask them the question, basically, do you want to go with one of the county's maps, one of the seven that Ms. Seba just outlined, or is it your desire to create your own map? And again, all of the legal requirements would stand, and so we will have that conversation with our board today at 1 o'clock, and we invite you to tune in at that point. We do have some next steps, again, just consensus on, are we going with the county map? And last night we learned at the Board of County Commissioners meeting that they were recommending county map number 5. That's what the Board of County Commissioners will go with. If the board wants to do that today at 1 o'clock, we'll certainly take that feedback from them. If they say, you know, we want to go with the county map, but we'd like to go with either 1 through 4 or 6 through 7, we'll entertain that as well. Or like I said, if they want to create their own map, we will have a demographer attending our meeting today, and they will assist the board in making decisions relative to their map. All of this to say also that the public is invited. So certainly you may submit comments. We do have a website. If you go to leeschools.net, there is a section under leadership where you can go into the school board page and pull up redistricting, and there's the ability to submit ideas. Our meetings are also open to the public. We'll be here today at 1 o'clock. We'll also be back on either November 16th or the 7th of December, which also will be times for the public to have input, and again, when it goes forward for adoption by the board. Again, this is just a reminder of our timeline, and at this point, we are here to entertain any questions that the public may have about redistricting.
There are a couple questions, and I know that it was mentioned, but one relates again to the clarity of this. That parents are wondering, is this affecting a school boundary? And I know that was touched on, but let's just for clarity's sake address that issue.
So this does not affect the school boundaries. This is strictly about a legislative elected official effort. This is required every 10 years with the census. This is not something just that Lee County School Board is doing. This is being done by every jurisdiction at every level, local, federal, state, across the country right now. We are all revisiting our boundaries to ensure that we are, to Ms. DePrimo-Bruno's, we're adhering to the one person, one vote standard and making sure that our jurisdictions, our legislative, political jurisdictions adhere to that one person, one vote based on the new census population data that we have. This isn't about students. This isn't about parents. This is about every individual person from birth to elderly.
Another question, in looking at the maps that's been generated, and maybe we have an answer for this because it's historical, but the district that crosses the river and is absorbed, so Cape Coral and a part of Fort Myers, do we have a historical knowledge of why that was drawn that way?
So from a historical standpoint, that goes back to the year 2011. The dialogue and the debate centered with the Board of County Commissioners, and the board took the decision of adopting the map. So that was a consideration after the county commission weighed into it. The board decided to go along with their map. So there wasn't a significant amount of discussion from the board table back in 2011.
And if, community groups, can they still get involved in this decision for the school board?
So we encourage, Rob, for them to submit any ideas that they have. Again, our board briefing today is open at 1 o'clock. We also reference them to the website. There is an opportunity for any and all input. I know our board members have received phone calls as well with different ideas that are being brought forward. We are all available, so certainly the opportunity for input still exists.
All right, well,
But just to remind everyone, we do have a hard deadline on this. We do need to be complete with our effort by the stroke of midnight, December 31st, 2021, because we can only complete this effort in odd years. So we do have opportunities, and we've definitely looked for ways that even with a condensed schedule that we had this year because the census data came out to us late, we do look for opportunities and welcome input, but we do have a hard deadline of December 31st.
right. Any last thoughts? That's really the questions that have been submitted.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, just a clarification, just a point back to your question. 2011, the maps were drawn, but to answer that individual's question, prior to the 2011 maps, those questions about the central part of Fort Myers, that chunk of the city was a part of the other side of the Caloosahatchee River. So the boundaries looked a lot different between 2001 and 2011.
Any last thoughts? Dr. Carlin?
Just want to thank you all for having us here today and allowing us to share a very complex issue known as redistricting with our community. And again, there are many opportunities for input. We welcome that. I know our board does as well. And just please continue to engage with our district as we make these decisions.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you to those that are watching or will watch later. As was mentioned, the Lee County School Board is meeting here at 1 o'clock, so a little less than 40 minutes from now, getting much the same presentation that you just saw, and then directing the district on which way they would like to move with the maps for redistricting. So you can watch that meeting live or at your convenience. It's on our YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/LeeSchoolsTV. It'll be there for you this afternoon or this evening, whenever you get the chance to watch. Thank you again, everybody, and have a good afternoon.